Hello, my name is Gilbert Hilpert, and today we're going to be working on a couple of bar stools to replace the Walmart specials that I've had collapse on me. So, to begin this project, I went ahead and did some research on the internet, mostly looking at pictures and things that people had already done. After that, I went ahead and started making sketches to figure out what type of style I liked and thought I could build using 1-inch square tube and some leftover wood that I had laying around. From there, I was able to go ahead and start cutting steel as you're seeing right now. I used a stop block, which is the anvil looking thing, to help make repeatable cuts. I needed to make a lot of cuts, in this case 8 legs for the stools. I need to make them quickly and accurately. To do this, I just measured the first one, set the stop block, and proceed to make all of the other cuts using that one measurement. Makes things a lot easier and a lot faster and a lot more precise. So after I finished the legs, I decided I needed to get the seats and backrests taken care of. So I went ahead and cut those out to 16 inches in length. And here you can see me setting up the stop blocks for this operation. So once I had the stool seats and backrests cut to length, I needed to make them flat on one side and curved on the other. Now, luckily, these boards had a fairly significant amount of cup to them, so all I really needed to do was make them flat on one side. Here I'm using the planer in my wood shop to go ahead and plane down the edges of some of these boards or the backs of other boards. And the reason I wanted to do this is to make sure that I could put them on the stool frame made out of steel very easily. I didn't want to have to fight the wood. I just wanted it to be flat and made up with the steel nice and easily. So the idea for this project was to give the stools a bit of an industrial look. Now, because of that, you can get away with some rustic wood, but you still have to spend the time doing prep work like sanding and staining. So here I'm going at it with a bit of 180 grit sandpaper, and we're going to round the edges, clean up some of the wood, and prevent splinters from happening. So once everything was planed and sanded down, I needed to add some sort of finish. Now I went with a boiled linseed oil finish. I like this because it's a penetrating oil, protects against moisture, and it's very easy to apply. You can see that I'm just pouring it onto the wood and rubbing it in with a cloth. Makes life very easy when you want to apply the stain. You can also apply it later on to restore it just by wiping more on to the piece of wood. So while the seats and backrests were drying, I needed to go and cut 45-degree cuts into all of those smaller pieces of steel that I had previously cut out. To do this, I've set my saw at a nice 45-degree angle, and I've got a saw stop up there. That's that little clamp, and you can see that I've just pushed that piece of steel up against the clamp. Now I can make quick and easy repeatable cuts at the same length, which will allow me to make really nice clean welds later on. Now, when you're working with steel, I have noticed one thing can cause all of the nice jigs and saw stops and all that stuff you've set up to fail miserably. And that is, as you make a cut with a chop saw like this, you will get a little bit of frill or ruffles at the edge of your steel. Those need to be beat down or broken off before you push the steel into the stop, or it will stop prematurely and your cut will in fact be short. So when you use a chop saw like I did previously, you're going to end up with these sharp edges and tabs of steel that you don't want. Spend some time with a grinder, clean up your steel, and your welds will be much, much better. In fact, you're going to see me use a jig in a little bit to assemble all of this steel, and I wouldn't be able to get really nice clean welds like I do if I had not spent the time to go ahead and grind down all the little edges. Easy. So after we've gone ahead and cut all the pieces down to 45, and we've got our wooden seats ready to go, and we've measured everything and made sure it's gonna work, we need to go ahead and start assembling. Here I'm using a jig, which are the 4 smaller pieces of square tubing that you see welded to the table, and an angle magnet. And I'm just tack welding everything into position. Now when you're welding, tack welding is super, super important. Can't stress it enough. Whenever you're doing something like this, you must tack weld. And the reason is pretty basic. As we start to do more and more welding on a piece of steel, the heat caused by all of the welding will cause the steel to start expanding and contracting in weird ways. Tack welding holds everything in place so that no matter how much heat we dump into it, we can still control the steel and make sure it's doing what we want it to do and not what the laws of thermodynamics want it to do. So tack welding here is super, super important. And also the use of a jig here makes my life really, really easy, because in the amount of time I've been narrating this, you've seen me put on 3, 4 different tack welds, and this seat is ready for welding right about now. Okay, so last night I finished up the steel frame of our stools, and today I'm going to go ahead and spray them with some black hammered metal spray paint, and it should finish these up quite nicely. We want to do that, of course, to prevent rust and to make them look nice. So let's go ahead and get working on that. So once the paint has dried, it's time to go ahead and assemble everything. What I've done here is I've got my frame, the stool frame, sitting on top of my seat, and I've got it clamped all together, and there's a little wedge in the back to help keep things steady. I'm using my speed square down there in the corner there to make sure that I'm drilling my holes at about the same spot on both the front and back, and this makes things really easy. And one other thing to mention here is that on my drill I've actually got a bit of tape wrapped around the drill bit at the depth I want to drill to. This makes it so I don't drill all the way through the wood. I only drill to a certain depth. Really easy trick there. Just take a piece of tape. I use electrical tape and wrap it around the drill bit. It'll stop right in time all the time. So if you just noticed, my drill made a loud squeaking noise, and that's caused by the drill bit punching through the steel and then grabbing onto a piece of steel that hadn't been sheared off yet and being stopped dead in its tracks. The drill itself, the electric drill, can keep spinning, but the drill bit is stopped dead. If you release the pressure slightly, that doesn't happen as much because the drill can keep spinning, and as it descends into the steel, it doesn't grab as much. So once I had the holes drilled, I needed to go ahead and be able to attach them to the steel frames. And to do that, I'm using these little silver wood screw things. They've got big wood screw style threads on the outside and little bolts threads on the interior of these things. Then you put them in with this Allen wrench piece you're working with right here. It ends up working out pretty well, and it's a nice strong connection. Instead of putting the wood screw through the steel, this is a much stronger thing. They're a little hard to get started, but once they're in the wood, it's not a big issue at all. Now, I found these things in the Hillman section of my local Ace, probably my favorite store of all. And you can find them in Hillman in the furniture fixtures part of that aisle. And you just have to sort of look for them. That aisle in particular has all sorts of really interesting bits of hardware and fixtures and all sorts of odd stuff, which if you have a few minutes, I would suggest going down there and just sort of looking at what is available. You might be surprised at some of the stuff they have. So once you have the little silver wood screw bolt things put into the wood, the rest of it's pretty easy. You take a bolt and a washer and you put them through the steel frame and you screw them into the little bolt receptor of the wood screw thingy, and that's it. Your seat is attached, and you do the same thing for the backrests. In order to get the backrest at the proper height, it really helps to have a friend or somebody to help move the backrest up and down until it is in the perfect spot. Once they have it sort of situated properly, you go ahead and you apply a clamp to hold things in place, take a few measurements to make sure that things are more or less evenly distributed on the frame, and then you can go ahead and make your marks, drill your holes, and repeat the process of putting in the little silver screw bolt thingies that you get from Ace. It's pretty easy at this point, and that is really the end of the project once you have those holes drilled. So here's the final product. And I gotta say, I'm really thrilled with it. It looks fantastic in my house, especially next to some of my other pieces of furniture which share the same industrial art style. I do want to go ahead and thank you for watching, and if you stay around, at the end of this video I will have parts lists and cut lists for this project, as well as probably a link to a second video where I do all of the sketches for this project, so you can see how I do those and the type of information I try and capture in my sketches. Thank you, and have a great day.